Hello everyone, welcome to Soul GPS, where we learn to take our life back in our hands after narcissistic abuse. This is another impromptu video that I wasn't planning to do. I'm not even very well prepared. I just finished working out, so I'm kind of sweaty and just sitting in my beanbag. But I've been watching the comments coming in from the last couple of videos that I did. And I just felt like doing this video to all of you who are going through some of the worst of times right now with respect to the suffering that comes after narcissistic abuse. And I wanted to offer you some words of consolation, because I remember when I was going through this and how I felt like I was literally drowning. I had mentioned in my other videos that I did not feel like going on. I felt like I just wanted to fall asleep and not wake up. I just did not feel a sense in moving forward in my life. I used to be full of aspirations. I have this dream to write these books, and you know, I've been always kind of a bubbly person. I had friends, you know, and there was always stuff happening in my life, even though I never quite felt like I was fulfilled. Like there was always something sucking energy from me, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was. I always felt that all my life. And something was like nagging in my stomach. It was in my stomach, in my third chakra, and that's where my wound is. And it's my mother wound, as I mentioned that in my previous video. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story, and I want to tell you a little bit about how I dealt with it in the worst of times. I remember when I was driving home after an explosive night with the narcissist. I have never ever experienced anything like this before on myself. I grew up in a household that was really violent. My parents fought all the time. They would usually start fighting after we would go to bed, which was around 8 p.m. When we were children. And I remember laying in bed and falling asleep or just starting to doze off. And the bathroom was right across the hallway from my bedroom. And then they would start fighting. I mean, it would get to the point where there would be like, my dad would try to drown my mom. There were, you know, black eyes. There were threats with knives. I mean, it was horrible, but it, to some degree, it happened every night. I only now realize that I have had a chance to spend some time with my father alone, just by myself, that this is like, he talks this way. He talks as if he's yelling. So even if they were having a quote-unquote conversation, which they never had a healthy conversation, never that I remembered there was a healthy exchange in my family. So the models that I grew up with were really skewed. The only positive model of a relationship was TV. It was movies, right? Which now I'm actually writing stories that I would like to make into movies one day. It's a big dream. We'll see if it happens. But I know now what it takes to create a relationship, right? It's all fictional, it's all fake. It's an idealized version of reality. And I actually just wrote a blog post on this on my writer's page, which if any of you guys are interested in learning about that, I'm happy to share my identity with you. But it's just for the purpose of this channel. I wanted to keep it separate because this is such a deep subject that deserves its own, you know, its own space, its own corner. So I don't want to mix the two. But, you know, it was all I either had the violence at home, or I had the idealized version that's fictional in a movie. So of course I was looking for the perfect guy, right? I was looking for the perfect relationship. And because I was I grew up as an enabler, I was a codependent, because I was the person who was always very quiet, almost kind of introverted. I became more extroverted over time. I had to learn it because I was living in Silicon Valley and I had to deal with people and talk to people. I had to learn. I hated small talk, but I had to learn how to do it. So I did. So I kind of like grew my extroversion, but normally I was always very quiet, very much in my own world and in my own fantasy, which is another sign, turns out, of people, children especially, who have gone through narcissistic abuse. They tend to escape, you know, into it's called disassociation or dissociation. Maybe it's British English versus American, I'm not sure, but you get the point. We escape into another reality, into another world. So that's how I basically lived through my childhood. I was always slightly disconnected from the regular world. It always seemed like it existed in kind of a fog because it was threatening. And not only was it threatening from my parents, so the thing with my mom was that, with my dad, that's simpler. Let's start there. With my dad, it was that he was just very neglectful. He was narcissistic. He is a narcissist for sure. He's very much just, it's all about him, he wants to connect though, but he can't, he doesn't know how. He had horrible childhood. He would be like tied to a table as a child, you know, with a rope when he did something bad, or left outside the door of his apartment if he lost his keys. Like his parents wouldn't let him in. I mean, I heard horror stories. So it's a chain that goes on transgenerationally, and we're kind of at the tail end of that, and we have the opportunity to change it, to stop it. But to stop it, it's like such an intense pathogen that to stop it, we have to go through the detox. So if you're going through this intense, insane suffering right now, you know, where you just want it to stop, you just don't know what to do, and that you're basically detoxing and purging by staying away from the narc, by going no contact. And let me tell you, going no contact is absolutely essential. There go the church bells. There's like 3 times in a day when they go on and on and on. So hopefully they won't bother you, but they might go on for like a minute. So most of us grew up with really skewed models of reality, really skewed models of the kind of relationship that we want. And we have been trained, like I was saying, I've been trained to be a codependent. You likely were too in some way, because I think that the gift that we come with in this world is we come with the gift of being able to see a different potential, of being able to see a peaceful solution. So we become the mediators, we become the people who calm things down, we become very resourceful, because that's the way we learn to cope. So when, you know, my parents would argue, I would be the one consoling my mom, right? Or I would be, you know, the one playing with my sister, my younger sister, just to kind of distract her from the nightmare that was happening at home. So, and then I also had another sister, older sister, who is a somatic narc, just getting worse over time, a really difficult person to be around. It's all about materialistic things. And she's the kind of person who, I mean, she's a classic example of sucking you in with, you know, some acts of kindness, only to then turn on you the moment you feel you don't feel well. You know, she doesn't know how to relate. She doesn't know how to be compassionate. She doesn't know how to sit there with you in your pain. But when she's in pain, when shit falls apart for her, she absolutely demands that, you know, the attention, and she can complain about it for days and days and days. What a poor person she is, you know, how terrible her life is, and this and that. She has an amazing life, but anyway, that's our other story. So as you're going through the worst of your suffering, know that you're detoxing, you're getting it out, right? And do not feel tempted to, right now especially, maybe later down the road you will start feeling compassion towards how fucked up these people are, what they do, but right now it's all about you. Make it all about you. You don't know how to make it all about you. You've been taught to always make it about everybody else. Stop that. Start to focus on you. You have been divorced from yourself for way too long. I remember when I was working with Meredith Miller. She was my coach. She saved my life. You know, she kept saying things to me like, it's about you. It's a focus on your journey. Forget about them. Forget about that. And my narc was hoovering me pretty intensely for quite a while. And he was just a master at knowing exactly what to say, you know, to make my heart melt and just throw me right back into the throes of suffering. And because here's a critical thing to remember. When you think of them, right, when you're thinking about the relationship, and your brain, remember, is trying to protect you, so it's only making you remember the best parts. It's trying to delete the bad parts. It's for survival. But it's, in this case, our brain is not our friend. So, excuse me, I just ate. I'm so sorry. So you have to remember to fight against. It's like fighting against your brain. It's you're going through the battle of your life. I want to validate that this is the hardest thing you probably have ever done. right? They say one of the hardest things we have ever done is, give birth, because it's just so painful for a woman, right? Or, lose somebody to death. When you lose someone to death, you're left with grief. It's grief. It's pure emotion. And yes, it can last for years, and it's not to be discounted. It's really difficult. This is, you're fighting against everything. You're fighting against yourself. You're fighting against the old you. The old you, you're gonna have to, just as you're dealing with the narc right now, probably trying to research this, make sense out of this, you're gonna have to do the same thing with yourself and figure out what was it in you that made you so susceptible to this manipulation. And it's a difficult path to walk, but let me tell you, if you do this, your life is going to change completely. Listen, if you want to have an amazing relationship with an amazing partner, you can have this. If you want to have a job that is super fulfilling, help people, connect with people, really connect with people, you can have this. If you want to have, let's venture into that territory, right? Why not? Be wealthy. If you want to, never worry about money anymore, you can do that. It's all in our minds. We can shift our minds. We can change our minds. That's why this terrible experience you're going through now is an opportunity, because it leveled your world. It leveled you. There's no tree left. There's no blade of grass left. You're going to have to regrow everything from scratch. But you know what? For the first time, you'll be able to grow a beautiful garden, because the garden you have inherited from the training in childhood had a lot of weeds in it. It had a lot of bad creatures. It had a lot of bad bacteria, right? Your trees were hollow. They were weak. They didn't have deep roots. So when this person came through and freaking destroyed you, it's in a way a blessing in disguise. And I know it doesn't feel like this right now. I know it doesn't, but there will come a point when you look back at it and you'll be like, oh my God, this was one of the most incredible experience, because it allowed me for transformation. It forced me, because listen, if it didn't happen, you would have I don't know, my English right now is a little weird. You would have kept going. I don't know if that's how we can say it, but let's just say, you would have kept going in the same direction for the rest of your life. So your life would always be compromised. It would always be subpar. And this time, because you have the opportunity to regrow your garden, to build a beautiful temple inside of your garden, to recreate yourself, to keep the best qualities of yourself, even those that got you in trouble initially, keep this empathy, keep this compassion you have, keep this openness, keep this easygoingness, keep this going with the flow. The only thing you really need to work on is trust, and not trust people so easily, right? I used to be the same. I would say things like, I trust everybody until they give me a reason not to trust them. That was like the stupidest thing I could have said. And this was all childhood training. It's all childhood training, And my mother was the one who taught me not to trust myself. Additionally, Dad too. Dad would do that too. And my sister would gaslight me all the time. So whenever I would intuit that something was wrong and try to face that and question the situation, they would always say, no, everything is fine. Maybe they did it for the sake of protection. I don't know. But they made me, and probably you've been through that too, discount your own intuition, right? So you put the trust in their person. You're like, okay, well, they're like gods. My parents are like gods. And you're completely dependent on them. And if they make you trust in what they're saying instead of what you feel, then you're gonna start trusting them, and you become kind of like this, this little duckling who just walks behind the mother duck, and you can never fully individuate. You're always tied by that cord. So that's something also to really look at, is who do you trust more than yourself in your life? Who do you trust more? Who's the person that comes up in your mind right now as you think about that? You're gonna have to let that trust go and rebuild your own self-trust, because you most likely knew when things were going wrong. You sensed that something was off. You just rationalized it because you wanted to have a nice life. You wanted things to go well. You wanted to forgive and move on. But because you've been divorced from yourself for so long, you put your trust into your new partner. So it's a habit. It's like it goes on and on and on. Not anymore. If you're sitting here with a stomach cramp, if you have been bawling your eyes out, if you just feel like you just can't take it anymore, know you are on the right track. It's just like training in the gym, when you are just doing that final last rep, I'm sorry, this might be a bad analogy, but you know, you feel like your muscles are tearing, you can't do another one, but you do it, then you feel amazing the next day. You have just gotten stronger. So that's what's happening. You're getting stronger, getting more emotionally intelligent. You're getting more intelligent about narcissists. So when you go out into the world, once you heal, and it will happen in degrees. So, you know, it's already happening, but it's happening on a smaller scale. Like, you're still incubating. Your new self is going to take some time before you give full birth to it. There will be a moment when all just snaps into place and you feel like you just got reborn, and you'll be like, oh my fucking God, this feels incredible. That day will come. But in the meantime, it's going to be like little intermittent moments of feeling better. And then it's going to be a lot of feeling shitty. And then it's going to be like 1 to 99%, and it's going to be 2 to 98, and it's going to be 3 to, and then we might have relapses, and it's going to go like that for a while. But then once you pick up momentum, you're going to feel better and better and better. And you're going to look at that narc and say, what a piece of shit, you know, because who does that? What kind of person does it take to consciously destroy another person's psyche, or hit them, or treat them like garbage? You know, what kind of person does it take? You know, stay away from that toxicity. You do not need this in your life. This is the universe telling you, hey, it's time to graduate. It's time to upgrade. It's time to up-level. It is time to take full control of your life. It's time to take your life in your hands, your destiny in your hands. And that is what's happening. You just don't know it yet because you're still in the pit of the darkness. And it's okay. Be patient with it. Get comfortable with that darkness, because once you get comfortable with all those emotions like fear and anger, right, and grief, all the emotions we try to stay away from, which is why we end up living our life really skewed, like always on the kind of happy side, but it's kind of fake, but it's on the happy side, right? And then the other side hits and we're like, boom, we're knocked to the ground. Well, here you're learning to be balanced and very emotionally intelligent. So now next time these emotions come, you're not going to feel threatened by them anymore. You're not going to feel like they're there to hurt you. They're your friends. They're your friends. So here's what I was going to say. When you think of that person and you feel all these disgusting feelings, all this pain, this is because that's what they represent. They represent that pain. You're going to feel more of that if you go back to them. At first, it's going to feel wonderful because it's like getting the drug, the heroin back in your veins, right? You're going to feel like, you know, temporary relief. And then the pain will come back again, but it will come double because it always escalates. So if you go back to them, if you reopen contact, two things will happen. Number one, you're going to lose self-respect. Eventually you will, because you're like, shit, I'm so weak, you know, I keep doing this. Rather, you're going to lose respect, and you're going to send them a message that you can take this. They can abuse you. They can abuse you. They'll be like, oh my God, they bit the hook. Now I get to do it again, and I'm going to do it even worse, right? They might not even think of it consciously, but that's what they will do because that's their default. So they might be nice for a few days, and then I remember with my ex-husband, how he lured me back. You know, I moved out in August for a month, and just to see, and I was with him since I was 19 years old for 9 years, so I didn't know almost anything about how to do things on my own. And I was in a foreign country. I was in America because I moved to America when I was 17. So 2 years later I met him, and I was with him till I was 28. So you know, it was so difficult, and he kept on just, you know, calling me and sending me messages saying all the right things. So then I moved back in. So he started making me all this coffee and just doing my laundry. And for like, I think it lasted, he did pretty well for like 8-9 days. And then he just did this undercut hit on me while I was just walking out of the shower. So I was like super vulnerable. And he just walked in and he said a few words, and I was like, I was shaking like this. I got in my car, like my hair was wet. I got in my car and I went looking for an apartment, and I found my apartment that very same day. And I never looked back. And he kept trying, of course, and my life just started changing. And I made a mistake. I made a really big mistake because that was my opportunity, because I didn't know about narcissistic abuse back then. That was my opportunity for transformation, but I didn't take that opportunity. I jumped right into another relationship, which wasn't as toxic, but it was, he was like a budding narcissist. He was very young. He was a young guy, and I caught him during the sort of the times when he was still still kind of like innocent. I was one of his first girlfriends. And then over time, he just started the training started to begin, right? Like it's somewhat innocent, like, oh, you know, you're basically like your butt is getting bigger. Oh, no, I didn't mean it this way, right? Like shit like that. And I remember my self-image was destroyed at the end of that relationship, right? So I would advise you really to take this time to yourself, really to focus on yourself, to marry yourself, to commit to yourself. And once you really fully marry yourself, once you really fully commit to yourself, and you no longer need anyone, then the quality people will start showing up. Actually, all sorts will start showing up, because everybody's going to want what you have. Everybody's going to want a piece of that self-fulfillment, of that incredible confidence that you will develop, that air of freedom that you will have inside, that sense of connection with your emotions, that sense of just feeling like a whole human being on a mission, you know, somebody who has their boundaries really well defined. Everybody's gonna like turn heads, you know. It doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter how old you are, you're gonna have that energy around you, and so you're gonna start attracting a lot of attention. But then, see, this is a training preparing you for that moment where you will be ready to be with the right kind of a partner. And but then you will be able to discern and pick the right one, you know, because there's going to be probably 90% garbage and 10% quality people. And I don't mean that people are garbage. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it this way. But you know, there'll be those people who are still they're going to have some toxicity, you know, and we are prone to attracting these people. I see them around me all the time, you know. They're borderline women around me all the time, everywhere. My mother, that's my mom. So this archetype keeps on coming back and keeps on coming back, and I keep having to put up a shield, you know, like I was talking about in my other video, you know, just deflecting and coming back to my space, you know, closing the door, coming back to my space, not letting them in any way, you know, invade my space, and with their gestures, comments, their little subtle ways they look at me, you know, like I'm just this child who doesn't know shit. I don't want any of that. So, right, so you will be, you know, you will be attracting these people. It's like a moth to a flame. It's just what's gonna happen. But you're gonna just shut them off. So they will see there's no way in, so they'll go away. And then finally you start finding and connecting with your tribe. You start meeting new friends. You'll start you know, being with people who, when you're around them, you just feel peace. You feel like you can be fully yourself, you know. You can be without makeup, you can be, or if you're men, you know, you can just be in your sweats, and it just won't matter. And you'll be able to say really what's in your mind, and you'll feel heard. And that's the beginning of a whole new life, a whole new relationship with other people, which begins with the relationship with yourself. So you're going to have to accept everything about you. This is an opportunity to dig in and just turn you're plowing. It's like plowing the field. Now you're in the ground. It's wintertime. Really cold, really dark, really scary. And then you're going to have to start plowing the field, you know, turning yourself inside out to see what's really there. And I highly recommend checking out, there's great books out there. Of course, the one I'm sure you've heard about, because a lot of other people on these channels talk about this, is Psychopath Free by Jackson McKenzie. From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, the CPTSD book. What a treasure. It's like I can't stop underlining it and highlighting it. It's like every page is mostly all highlighted, because every sentence is just gold mine. So check those out. If you're struggling with mother issues, Mothers Who Can't Love by Susan Forward, excellent books. Actually, all the books by Susan Forward I highly recommend, you know, because these books are really validating. And when you're feeling yourself like you are losing it, like you just can't do this anymore, have a book nearby, open it up, and just read a few words, take a deep breath. That's going to create some of that distance that you will need to unplug and disconnect and break that trauma bond. If you haven't seen it, check out my video on breaking the trauma bond. Inner Integration too. Meredith Miller has excellent material on trauma bonds. Dana from Thrive After Abuse, fabulous. Richie from Spartan Life Coach, great resources. So keep feeding yourself those videos, keep listening to it. I used to, when I was going through the worst, I had my headphones in, I would say about 90% of my waking time. The only time I didn't was when I was taking a shower, and I was scared. I was scared literally that what I'm going to be thinking about once I'm in the shower. You know, so I would just want to quickly get it done with. I would walk out still, you know, in my towel, and turn the YouTube videos back on to just keep listening and keep listening, because the things you're feeding yourself with, this new information, is going to replace the old. So later down the road, once you're like more than 50%, you're on the good side versus the bad side, and you're gonna encounter a moment, a challenge, you will have all these tools already in the back of your head, so you'll be able to deal with the situation on the spot and move forward and move forward. This experience is gonna make you soar. The choice is yours. The choice is how much time are you going to spend really working on yourself right now. And I know if you have children, if you have a job that's demanding, it's going to be difficult. But there is actually a saving grace in that, because when you have to focus on your kids, or you're working, you kind of have to abandon the rumination. So that's good because it again unplugs you. So it can be a good thing, because sometimes when we're left on our own alone, it gets difficult. If you can, try to sit with some of those difficult emotions and just inhale self-love. Inhale love, even if it feels fake, because we've been taught not to love ourselves. Loving ourselves feels so foreign. I remember when I was going through this, I was like, Meredith kept saying, like, you gotta focus on you. You gotta love yourself. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, I don't really love myself. And I was like, fuck, I really don't love myself. I have found so many faults with myself. And you know what all these faults were? They were the result of the opinion of other people. And what is the opinion of other people? When they dish you their opinion about you, they are handling you their own prejudices, their own life experiences, their own hurts and pains. All of the things that are fucked up with them are going into you. So it's kind of like taking a syringe and just going, there you go. This is what I think of you. So we're walking around with like full of these shots. We're filled with this toxicity we've picked up our entire life, which are utter, total lies, right? And then we wonder why we can't accomplish as much as we want to. We wonder why we're drained. We wonder why we're fatigued. All that stuff is sitting deep in our gut. It is sitting in our cells. We have to release that. If you are going through your dark night of the soul, the reason why it hurts is because you are releasing all that toxicity. So learn to enjoy this pain. I know this feels like the worst advice ever. Like I'm just being not masochistic right now. But breathe into it and let it go. Just keep letting it go. You can imagine this dark black goo leaving your cells and light entering in. You can have anything you want. Your beautiful life is waiting for you. You will get through this. And if you want to speed up the process, also you may want to consider some form of therapy. You may want to consider hiring a coach. I find that these coaches that do narcissistic abuse are just phenomenal. They're so resourceful. I would love to offer coaching right now. I'm unable to do that until probably winter time, because I'm now all over the place, all over the map, literally traveling, looking for a home, looking for a place to settle. Looks like I will be settling finally for about 6 months in November. So I would love to offer you any kind of personal coaching. Right now I can only offer email because my time zones are so off and I'm unreliable right now. But at least I have these videos and I'm reading your comments and I want to answer all of your questions, and I'm making a list, and hopefully I'll get to as many of those as I can. So keep posting, keep having a good belief in yourself. You really, if you've been already through the wars, so you're an incredibly resilient person, you know. Having been through already so much abuse makes you probably a person who should earn a gold medal in resiliency. So once things get set straight and set right, which they will, once that black goo leaves your system and your body begins to integrate again, it begins to, you know, heal, you're going to be amazed at the progress you're making. It's going to be almost like effortless. Doors will start opening. People will start entering your life that are just like amazing. right? Opportunities will come. Creativity will start to soar. Your communication will get better because now you really understand something really deeply. You know what it means to go through this, right? So you also understand human suffering inside out. You know, you have just earned a graduate degree in human suffering. And human suffering, like, for the most part, is humans hurting other humans, you know? I don't see animals hurting each other. Sure, they hunt because they need to eat, but they don't consciously, like, well, monkeys kind of do, right? Chimpanzees and bonobos, they can get wild and crazy, and yeah, actually they do. And since we're like, what, 95% we have their genes, I guess maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the residue from our ancestry, is that we have this tendency to hurt one another. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about what the narcissists are doing. Although some of us may have picked up some of those traits. I remember when, you know, with my sister, she was an authority for me for the longest time, and she was a horrible narcissist. She would gossip about people. She would talk shit about their behind their back when they were not there, you know, using them for her, you know, whatever she wanted from them. She was doing it all the time, cheating on her boyfriend. I mean, it was endless. And to me, she was that cool, you know, because nobody could ever touch her. She was always she always rose above it, and she had this power. So I started to emulate her. And of course, I ended up surrounding myself with toxic people. So, yeah. So maybe you relate to some of what I had said to you. But know this, you're supported. I hear you. A lot of other people are listening too here on our, you know, online forums. Thank God for the internet, right? So we're forming a community, and it's a community of people that maybe the cords and the bonds we're sharing are invisible for now, but know that we're there for each other, and we're standing there for our brothers and sisters who are going through the worst of times, and we can get through this, and then we can help other people get through this, and then we'll just spread this, and the narcissist will just not have a way with us anymore. We will just not be available for abuse. And they're going to have to deal with their shit. And you know what? Maybe that's what's needed. Maybe they just really need to sit with their shit. And maybe there's hope. Maybe once they've run out of all of their options and all of their distractions, maybe then they will look within and say, you know, I got to change, because otherwise I have no power. There's nothing. There's no connection with anything. Right? I don't know. Maybe now I'm just, you know, going off into my fantasy world. But as it is right now, keep yourself safe. Keep yourself protected. Don't let anybody into your temple with their dirty shoes, spraying their shit all over your, you know, your walls. No. Don't let them do that. And be kind to yourself. Know that what you're going through is normal. Know that you will be fine, even though you may feel like your body is just getting sicker and sicker from the pain. You're purging. So look at it this way, you're purging. So don't add, you know, an extra layer of trauma by being afraid for like your life. Like, I came out of it healthier than I was before. Especially as I cut the cords with my mother. So many issues that I've had with my body since I was a child have just miraculously resolved themselves. Like, I'm like 80-90% healthier than I was when I was, you know, I thought I was in peak health in my teen years. So all of that shit's gonna have to leave. So it's just like going on a diet, you know, or fasting. You're gonna feel sick for a few days. You're gonna be detoxing. So this is treated as an emotional, mental, 360-degree actually all around detox. You'll be better as a result. You're going to feel lighter as all that shit drains out of you, and just the earth composts it. You're going to rise. You're going to feel wonderful. I promise you that, because if you stick with this, you are going to get through this. There's just no other way. There's no other way. This is your hero's journey. And if you need extra help, hire those coaches, hire a therapist. I know it may seem like it's expensive, but you know what? The money that I spent on my coaching sessions was the best money I've ever spent in my entire life. It slingshotted me forward. It validated me. It opened my eyes. You know, every session that I had, I was then for 3-4 weeks, I was getting results. I was getting the benefits. So maybe it's time for you to invest in yourself, you know, because it's you. It's worth it. It's worth it for you to feel healthier, to have some peace of mind. or you can just keep reading the books, keep journaling. The idea is to externalize, get the shit out on paper, talk to people you trust, talk to your friends. If you don't have anybody in your life to talk to the trees, talk to the sky, talk to the flowers, and keep feeding yourself with good information, good healthy information that is going to replace all of that toxicity in your mind. Okay, I think that's enough for this one. I have more videos that I'm preparing for you guys. We'll be releasing them in the coming days. I want to post this one as soon as I can right now. So I want to wish you a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world. Know we're here standing with each other, so you're not alone. You're not alone. You never were alone. We're always here for one another, and you're going to get better, and this suffering is going to polish you like a diamond. So stick with it. Keep going through this inferno. You're going to come out on the other side feeling better than ever. You'll be a new person, and you're going to be able to really feel your intuition and let your inner compass guide you to a better life than ever. Thank you. I'm sending you best wishes always. Take care. Bye.